Hi, this is the Business Guy. So how do you hide money? How do you protect your assets from creditors, divorce, wayward spouses, judgments, and so on? I'm the CEO of Asset Protection Planners, the nation's largest asset protection firm. And today we're talking about something that most attorneys are too afraid to talk about. The reason they are afraid to talk about this and why it remains a mystery to so many people is because what we're going to talk about today will keep your money in your pocket and out of their pockets. And that is how to hide money legally from creditors and your soon-to-be ex-spouse. This includes not only your bank account, but your real estate, including your home, real estate investments, your stock market investments, and when you watch until the end, you'll know exactly what to do step by step to keep these things you've worked so hard for out of the hands of creditors, lawsuits, divorce, and predators who want to make your assets their assets. You work hard for your money. So if somebody wants to come into your world and take it away from you, we're going to make them work a lot harder. In fact, so hard that the task of taking your money is nearly impossible. That's what we're going to do today. First and foremost, you must know that yes, there are ways to hide your assets from creditors, divorce, and lawsuits, and you can do it legally. And here's how. But first, I need your help. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please click the like button below so YouTube promotes this. Thanks so much. You can click share below and share this video with others who need it. And please join our community by clicking the subscribe button and notification bell if you haven't already, so that when more videos come out like this one, you'll be up to date right away. Now keep in mind, when it comes to hiding your assets, you need to take this action early to avoid the suspicion of defrauding a creditor. In other words, it is best to act as soon as possible. Now yes, there are ways to protect yourself after the fact. However, don't wait until your opponent asks the judge to freeze your assets in the middle of the lawsuit before you decide to transfer them to a trust or other asset protection entity. Then it would be too late. Let me give you a little background. I've been in the asset protection field since 1991, so over 30 years now. Our company started in 1906. We have full-time attorneys on staff, and I believe we currently have about 80,000 clients on our database. So feel free to give us a call or fill out an inquiry form on our website for a free consultation. Okay, so we'll talk about how to move your assets legally and how to keep them safe. Now, just to be clear, this organization uses several different strategies. Some hide assets, others actually protect assets. Now, what's hidden can be found, but what you actually protect, even if someone finds it, it's still protected. And we think that's what most people want anyway, asset protection. Many people search the internet using the word hide, and that's what may have led you here. So since that's what people search for, that's the main reason we use both the words protect and hide in this video. Let's talk about options. So to hide or protect your assets from lawsuits and creditors, there are a couple of obvious options for you. First, for your personal assets as your home, you can hide your ownership in a land trust. Your cars, you can hide in title holding trusts. These documents can keep your association with these items out of the public records. Now, there are several types of domestic trusts discussed in detail on our website. Now, you can still legally protect your assets from a court judgment. However, if you try to hide or protect your assets within your own jurisdiction, such as the US, a results-oriented judge can use any number of theories of legal liability in order to penetrate just about anything under the judge's jurisdiction. US LLCs, U.S. Asset Protection Trust. Hey, we can set them up, but they've all been penetrated time and time again. Hey, I've been in the asset protection profession for over 30 years, so I've seen it. So to get the most effective protection, you must be willing to use international asset protection strategies that put your assets beyond the reach of local courts. And you can do this safely and securely because if you do a Google search, the safest banks in the world are outside countries such as the United States, not inside. The U.S. banking industry, many political forces, as well as self-serving legal associations, have very carefully planted thoughts in the heads of many Americans to scare them away from international banking. But do you want to know the real truth and what the data shows? Watch our video on offshore banking and you'll see for yourself. Of the top 50 safest banks in the world, do you know how many national U.S. banks are on the list? Zero. Not even one. In fact, the only U.S. banks on the list are 4 tiny farming banks, all on the bottom half of the list. The safest one being number 35. The remainder are number 44, 46, and 47. So there are 34 banks in the world safer than even the very safest U.S. bank. Asset Protection Planners personnel has connections with some of the safest banks in the world. To secure your assets and can help put your assets in a safer place. You have online access, debit cards to buy groceries, the ability to make secure remote wire transfers, do stock market investments yourself online. Just a bank account alone is not enough because a judge can force you to bring it back. To really protect yourself, your account has to be in the proper legal tool as well. Each offshore jurisdiction is a sovereign country. Many have asset protection laws that give you a huge advantage when you set up a foreign asset protection trust and offshore LLC. So establishing an offshore LLC that an offshore asset protection trust owns may be one of the only ways you can protect your assets from a court judgment in the US, UK, Canada, EU, Australia, or many other jurisdictions. The reason is this: our international law firm that acts as the trust company resides outside of the jurisdiction of the U.S. courts. Therefore, they are not subject to U.S. court orders. Demands to repatriate funds fall on deaf ears. The trustees are reputable, licensed, bonded, insured international law firms with long-standing track records for safeguarding assets. Inside one of these offshore trusts, we place an international LLC. You hold bank accounts in the name of the LLC. You're the manager of the LLC and signature on all bank accounts until you need our law firm to step in to protect you. Offshore jurisdictions in countries where we set up asset protection trusts, like Cook Islands, Nevis, or Belize, have incredibly strong asset protection legislation. All of these jurisdictions continuously strengthen their laws. They have tightened regulations regarding setting up, administrating, and protecting various asset protection vehicles established on their shores. By the way, if you look up the least corrupt, most trustworthy jurisdictions in the world, New Zealand is tied for Denmark as the number one safest. And guess what country Cook Islands is a part of? New Zealand. Now, your creditor may find out about your offshore trust or LLC during the judgment debtor exam. But that's okay, because as long as it's set up properly in the proper jurisdiction, such as the ones we utilize, you can run a billboard outside the window of your opponent's law firm and list all of your assets in full public view, and your assets still remain out of reach. If you want more information, call us or fill out a free consultation form on our website listed below. You can also give them BG for Business Guy, BG25 for $25 off a corporation or LLC, and BG100 for $100 off an asset protection trust for a limited time only, just for watching this video. What about real estate asset protection? To hide real estate ownership, we set up land trusts. Somebody searches your name in the county recorder's office and they see nothing with your name on it. Then for real estate investments, we stick the land trust in an LLC for asset protection and lawsuit protection. Now, your home, your personal residence, is in a different tax category, so we'll typically put your home into a land trust without an LLC. Finally, we use equity stripping strategies to strip out the equity from your real estate. We record mortgages initially payable to the LLC inside of your asset protection trust, and then we can immediately have an offshore lender purchase those mortgages and place the funds into an inaccessible account in your offshore trust if needed. So we have a third-party lender who gets involved when necessary. So that's real estate asset protection. Call us for more info. Business entities. If you own a business, it would usually be wise to establish a business entity such as a corporation or LLC. Corporations and limited liability companies act as barriers between your business life and your personal life. They provide protection that sole proprietorships or partnerships do not offer. And it so happens that this organization has expertise in setting these up, and we set up some of the strongest corporations and LLCs available. So if you own business assets and you have not yet created an entity for it, right now may be the time while it's still on your mind. This needs to have been done last week for yours and your family's protection. The main takeaway here is that these processes are best, but not necessarily started before a lawsuit begins. If attempting to deprive creditors at the last minute after somebody files a lawsuit against you, know that a court will take interest in the recent asset transfers. They may see last-minute moves as fraudulent conveyances. Now keep in mind, fraudulent conveyance is generally a civil matter and not a criminal one. We've never had a client go to jail for it. Still, that is why addressing your asset protection today can be crucial to your financial safety. If somebody has already served you with a lawsuit or know that one is on the way, you can still institute an asset protection strategy, but know it is better, much better, to do so beforehand. Move swiftly. Moving your assets now, before a hint of legal trouble, can help keep them safe and secure. Specifically, using offshore trusts and other asset protection entities makes it even more difficult for domestic financial predators to encroach on your wealth. The best part, this is perfectly legal. And if something is legal and and you're better off doing it now than putting it off, it might just be time to take action. An example. Let's create a little scenario to paint a picture to show exactly how this is done. And we'll do this before bogging you down with the technical aspects of it all. Let's say Jonathan has $930,000 worth of assets. They include home equity, funds in a savings account, and a paid-off Mercedes-Benz. What Jonathan needs to do with these personal assets is to put them in the proper legal tools. You can place your home in a land trust and mortgage it to the hilt. You can put the Mercedes into a title holding trust and borrow money using it as security. The liquid assets, including proceeds from the two assets mentioned here, are placed into an offshore asset protection trust. And he's smart because he's doing it now before he can even fathom a lawsuit coming his way. He reads the literature and knows the Cook Islands Trust, for instance, proves itself effective and consistently protects assets. The challenge is that many people who are not facing imminent lawsuits scratch their heads until they bleed trying to understand every last detail. We call it paralysis by analysis. And that same person gets sued and keeps scratching right through his or her skull until the lawsuit seizes and freezes their assets. At that point, once their assets are frozen, there is nothing we can do to protect them. That same person will have a $1,500 TV hanging on the wall, pick up the remote and turn it on with no idea of how the picture gets up there on the screen. They're not sitting there with a screwdriver opening up the box to figure out every circuit before they watch the latest episode of Grey's Anatomy. They simply turn on the TV and sit there and watch without an inkling of a thought of how that signal gets there and all the pixels dance around on the screen to entertain them. And then they turn around and risk hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars they've worked so hard for analyzing asset protection strategies until a savvy pack of lawyers sneak up on them like a herd of lions on a baby gazelle and eat them alive while they sit there dumbfounded. Don't get trapped by paralysis of analysis. Take action while you still can and rely on experienced experts. If I said give me 100,000 and I'll give you $1 million and you knew for sure you'd get your $1 million, you'd do that all day long. Asset protection isn't free, but it's the same as if you were going to give somebody $100,000 in order to have a near 100% guarantee that somebody wouldn't take away the $1 million you already have. And the good news is that most asset protection plans cost a mere fraction of that amount. Give us a call and find out, because if you're serious, calling us is free, safe and secure. Jonathan now has the meat of his assets in an asset protection trust. Wham! A lawsuit is filed against him. He's a young doctor who's being hit with a challenging malpractice suit that far exceeds his insurance limits. He knows he may lose the case. He also knows, however, that he has protected his assets in his Cook Islands Trust. His local courts do not have jurisdiction over foreign trustees, so taking them from him is hard, if not nearly impossible. The most he stands to lose from the lawsuit is what is readily available domestically. Jonathan made the right choice. Consider another point. You have a protection strategy available to you if you are a business owner as well. This is especially the case if you have prudently formed an entity, a corporation or LLC, rather than remaining a sole proprietor. These entities do not protect against professional malpractice, such as a physician removing the wrong kidney, but they can offer protection against employee and contract liability. Cook Islands Trusts. Back to personal trust. The Cook Islands does not even recognize foreign judgments. Say a court is interested in seizing your assets and they make a phone call to the trust company. The most they will get is somebody who will turn a deaf ear to them who is not under their jurisdiction. Essentially, what our trustee law firm is saying if they get a call like this is this: sorry, I can't help you. It's my legal obligation to protect my client and their assets. Your courts do not have any say-so here. Again, this is perfectly legal, and you can expect the trustee to carefully manage your assets only when you get into legal trouble. And when it's over, they simply put the ball back in your court. Misinformation from unscrupulous creditors on the internet. There's a lot of negative information on the internet about hiding assets in domestic or offshore trusts by forming business entities, etc. But creditors publish most of this information in order to throw you off course. You're likely to find these financial predators refer to people who take intelligent action as scoundrels or deceptive. It is clear what their goal is, though. They want you unprotected so they have easy access to your money. Things become much easier for them when they find a defendant with easy-to-reach domestic assets. Most trial lawyers don't produce, they take. They want a payday, and the way they get one is by taking from those of us who do produce. That said, it is important to be very skeptical when reading these persuasive, self-serving, and even cruel articles you may find on the internet to try to dissuade you from protecting or hiding your assets in a divorce or other lawsuit. Remember when we discussed that opening trusts and forming protective entities before legal trouble is legal? What these creditors who post their dirty laundry all over the web Web are doing is they're saying, yes, it's legal, but we don't like it. Well, too bad. Now, for those naysayers out there, that's the whole point. We're talking about protecting money legally. We're not talking about hiding money from the IRS or any other government agency. You need to pay your taxes. We're not talking about hiding money in order to do illegal things. We're talking about protecting money and only doing legal things. Act now. Consumers are not at the mercy of creditors. That is, unless they allow themselves to be. Therefore, it is extremely important to start the process of setting up an asset protection trust, if appropriate, for your situation right now. Then form the other asset protection entities that suit your needs. Beat them to the punch. You are outsmarting them, and you are legally doing so. Those with the means to sue the little guy will stop at nothing to get your assets to line their pockets with your money. Now, none of this is legal advice, but we do have attorneys on staff who you can talk to. If you have questions about protecting your assets, please feel free to give us a call at 954-400-1050 anytime, or visit assetprotectionplanners.com and fill out our free consultation form. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with others. See you next time. This is The Business Guy.